Hey you all, my name is Dreamy and today I'm going to be talking about how I got into sex work, and I'm obviously just going to be talking about myself. Maybe some of you all will see yourselves in my story and kind of my path and where I got to where I'm at, and maybe it will help you. So my name's Dreamy. I am 29 years old. I am a Taurus. And I'm also from a small town in Kentucky. I was born in Texas. We were military, ended up in Kentucky, and my father didn't retire from the military, but it was most definitely like, we're gonna be here and he's gonna retire and get out, and that's where we're gonna be. And so since third grade, my parents built a house on some land, and I grew up riding horses. I've always loved animals. We always had animals. It got to one point where I think we had like 5 or 6 dogs, because me and my mom would always be like, yeah, let's go to the pound. We're not gonna adopt a dog. And then we just come back with a dog. And very privileged, honestly. Now that I'm an adult, I recognize it. My father is from Panama and my mother is from California, where my great-grandmother came when she was 19 from Holland. And so we do have like a little Dutch in us, but my mom is a Cali girl, most definitely, for sure. But also has some grit to her, like definitely can hang in the South. We are very loud family, with my father being Panamanian, very outspoken. I grew up my whole time in Kentucky. I went to cosmetology school when I graduated from high school, and I worked in Kentucky for about 3 years as a hairstylist before I went to Nashville. Now, a little bit about like me. I was very, I don't know, now that like I think back to it, I was very, I think, awkward, especially when it came to like dating and guys. Like I remember like my boyfriends in high school, and it's just so embarrassing because I wouldn't even have the courage to talk to them. I was just so self-conscious about like my body and myself. I didn't really wear like shorts until I graduated high school. Honestly, like I was so self-conscious about the cellulite on my legs that I wanted to cover it up. I was always into makeup and hair growing up, and that was just, I guess, my way of feeling really good about myself, and also just a hobby of mine. I unfortunately fell off. I don't regret it, but I wish that I had enjoyed having horses and the animals the way that, in a way that like now I'm just like, I wish I could go back and have that, because it's such a beautiful thing and a grounding thing to connect with animals that way. And I still feel that way about my animals, like my dogs. I can't tell you how many neighbors I've pissed off advocating for them because they do have behavioral issues, and it's like, yo, you will see a whole different side of me. I will lose my mind if you cross my boundaries with my animals. So it's gonna be terrifying when I have a real human child. I don't want to get off track though. So yeah, I went to Nashville and I told myself, like, I'm going to learn to like myself. I'm gonna be comfortable with myself, and I'm going to dress in ways that make me uncomfortable to help me be comfortable in those situations. And it was very much a time where I started working out. I started running. I ran like a half marathon, and running has now been something that, when it comes to working out, it's always something that I keep consistent. Even if I fall off, like I may not do like a circuit or squats or go to the gym, but I do usually get up and always consistently go on a run. Even if it's a short one, it's just getting up and moving my body. And when I was in that period, I like dropped down to, I'm like a big girl. I'm like 5'9". I've always been on the heavier side, the curvier side. And I got down to, I think, like under 140, which is quite thin for me. It's the thinnest that I've ever been in my life. And I just remember like really still not liking myself and my body and just like still picking it apart. I definitely got the attention that I felt that I wanted from men, but it was always disappointing because I was like, why do I have to be this thinner weight for me to attract the people that I wanted to attract? And now, like, looking back, it's the intention behind it was never like genuine. It was just like me thinking that if I change myself externally, then I'm going to be and fit into society the way that, you know, a woman should, because I now fit the part and look the part, and it just didn't pan out. So my job there in Nashville started going downhill. I had a boss who was based somewhere in Texas, and he started just doing things to the salon and making these changes that he wasn't following through with. So ultimately he closed the salon because he also started getting sued for doing things inside the building that were not approved. But that was right in 2019. I remember I was working a wedding and they called me and told me that I didn't have a job. And thankfully, now I think back and I was so thankful. Everything was meant to happen the way it did, because my lease was up. I was going month to month. I was ready for a new change, and it was scary, but I had made like over $1,000 that day at that wedding, and it was just enough of the security blanket for me to move back home and to Kentucky and live with my father. And so of course this is right before COVID happened. I learned how to bartend, and I was working at a doggy daycare, which I now have my 2 dogs that I got. And I had that Christmas I went to San Diego to visit my brother, because at the time he was stationed there, and I fell in love with the city. I was like, what the hell am I doing East Coast in Kentucky when I could have like perfect weather all the time? And I was just kind of like, I'm going to move to San Diego. So during 2020, everything popped off. Like the beginning, I remember bartending in January and hearing things about COVID and like all of this, and just wasn't taking it seriously until I lost both my jobs. I was fortunate enough to get on I don't even remember what it's called now, but to get the money that they were sending, the government was sending. And honestly, I was able to save a lot of money on top of what I had already saved, to move west. During that time, I had also started my OnlyFans that has now brought me so much passive income, and just like more than that, it's just like it's opened up this whole new world for me. And OnlyFans really changed the game when it came to sex work. It normalized it in a way, and I was just like, yeah, I can do that. And my first month I made $50, and I was elated. Now I look back and I feel super bad for the guy who paid $50, because he bought one picture of my boobs for $50. And not price shaming anything. If that's your price, that's totally fine. But now he's kind of cute. It's been years since he's subbed to me and was just like, hey, just kind of want to see where you're at now. But he occasionally would, and he'd be like, wow, you've like really grown. I remember when I had to pay so much to see that. And I gave him anything he wanted, because I was just so thankful, because he was the first person who really saw me and felt like I was worth investing in. And it really, like, I was just like, oh my gosh, like that's wild. As someone who was very much codependent and always trying to like work so hard for someone to see me and to like me, it was a nice feeling at the time. So anyway, fast forward, I moved west. I lived with my mom for about a year as I worked at another dog place. It wasn't doggy daycare, it was like a natural dog food store, and I learned a lot. And I'm really thankful for that time because thankfully my boss paid me quite well, especially with like COVID and everything going on. But I knew that town was like very red. And 2020 was huge because it was election year, and it was very eye-opening. I learned a lot about myself during that time. It was my first time not only living close to my mother's side of the family, because we've always been at a distance, that I was like, I need more than this. I have to leave. I don't align with this town. I don't align with anybody there. And I shit you not, every day I sang Just Like Magic by Ariana Grande. Every single day I drove to work and I sang Just Like Magic. And in a way, I feel like it was affirmations. It was me manifesting. It was me saying, I can do what I want. I'm going to get where I want. And that I did. So hence me moving to San Diego. I packed up my 2 dogs and we got in the car. I got an Airbnb that was probably the size of my room with a little bathroom. And 3 months into that, I was just like, so I stayed there 3 months because here in Cali, you usually have to get a place without a cosigner, you have to have 3 times your rent. So you got to be making 3 times your rent. I ultimately could not do that, but I was being able to pay, I think I was paying her like $1,400 a month to live in this like 150 square foot place with my 2 animals. And I was just like, you know what, like screw this, like I can do this. I just need help. And thankfully my mom co-signed for me and everything worked out perfectly because I had found a place that they hadn't even put on the site, put the $200 down deposit, went and looked at it and said, this is what I want. And I got it. And I've been here now 3 years now. And I'm so thankful for this place. When I leave, I'm going to cry. I may cry right now. I may leave when I cry. I may cry when I leave just because I've grown so much in these 3 years. And during the time in that Airbnb, it was terrifying. I remember driving into the city that first day and I had so much like fear just like wash over me. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, Dreamy? And you can't do this. Like, you're not going to be able to, you know, afford this rent. You're alone down here. You don't know anybody. And it was just like, I just had to keep like kicking those things out of my head because they're not helping me. So I ultimately worked everything out. I had a lot of long, hard days. I was probably streaming. I would stream like 5-6 hours in the morning, 5-6 hours at night, and sometimes I still do that shift because it's just nice to break it up. Like streaming just like a full 10 hours, especially when you have animals, it's impossible. And it's good to have just like a little break. But I was working so much that I would fall asleep on stream sometimes, like because I would just lay there with my ass to the cam and I would literally fall asleep, which you're not supposed to do, but that's how tired I was and that's how hard I was working. But finally when I got here, things really got better because I was like, you know, I can do this. And at the end of the day, like taking care of myself and learning how to take care of myself, I'm gonna cry. Okay. Taking care of myself in that way has been great for my confidence because when I was in Nashville, I was constantly asking my parents for money just because I couldn't afford to pay at the time for my $700 rent that oh my god, I wish I still had that so bad. But my mom was so stressed when I moved down here because she, at the time, I had lied to my parents. I told them that I was just gonna drive Uber and deliver people's groceries, and that's what they thought that I was, you know, what they thought I was doing, until I felt comfortable and stable enough to be like, no, this is what I'm actually doing and this is what I'm going to be doing moving forward. And I had that confidence, that knowing that this is my path and you're either with me or you're not. And thankfully my parents, I mean, they weren't excited to hear that I not only had like lied to them, but also had, you know, chose something where I kind of feel like they feel like, well, you know, like you're smart and you know you can do anything, like you don't have to resort to this. And I'm like, yeah, I know that I'm smart, I know I can do anything, and I will resort to this because it makes me feel good and I like it, and I love the freedom that it gives me. I love being my own boss. It was something that I actually struggled with because I had a lot of managers that, not the one in Nashville, I actually loved her, but my manager at the hair salon, she was amazing. But I had problems with people. I felt like people were always put in leadership positions and they had no idea how to lead. And it is like a self-righteous thing about myself where I'm just like, I can do it better. But it's just like, also like I can do it. Like I can do it better. I can run my own business. I can create a community that wants to support me, not only just like me as who I am as an adult, but also just like financially, because they enjoy my content. So that felt really nice. And yeah, it's now been 3 years. I'm now like branching off and starting to stream on Twitch. I just bought a PC. I'm still going on hard on streaming. I now have like a Fansly and OnlyFans. I now have like a YouTube, and I just feel very grateful that I'm lucky enough to be successful enough in this to be able to support myself and my animals financially. And a lot of the things that sex work has taught me are things that I just needed to see about myself. And I mean, I obviously still struggle sometimes with that, but I just actually made a TikTok, and one thing, I'm gonna cry again. One thing about having a community is that I'm gonna cry. I feel like they have helped me learn how to receive love. And it's something that I've struggled with, and I think it's just society and my grandmother growing up in a society where women are supposed to, I don't want to say serve because it sounds so intense, but please. And of course, like, that's what generational trauma is. It's, no, my grandmother did it, so obviously my mother grew up seeing that, and obviously I grew up seeing that, even though I think my mother in a way has transformed and has created her own sense of empowerment in that, and she's been able to pass that on to me. But I still see like little ways of where I'm supposed to be like pleasing and acceptable and not be so big and take up so much room. And now I have no fear around it. And people who do want to try and make me feel smaller are just like people that I can easily just like kick out of my life. And streaming and being a cam model and having my OF and really establishing boundaries and being like, that's not the way that I like to be talked to, and really learning to speak up for myself and seeing that people still want to stick around is, yeah, it's very healing. So one thing that I've also had to learn when it comes to dating, because when I first moved here, obviously I'm in this new city and I want to hop on Bumble and Tinder and like connect with these people. And at the time I had like the last person that I had slept with, it was like the most demeaning and shitty experience. And he was still the last person that I slept with. That was like over 2 years ago, because it was very easy for me to sit in this victim mode of how dare that person treat me like that, and me seeing now all the red flags and still wanting to just like point at them and be like, you did this. But it's really, I had to like sit back and be like, why did I feel like I deserved that? Like, why did I continue to stick around to be treated that way? And yeah, sex work has shown me that I don't need to do that, and that if I speak up for myself and establish some type of boundary and people don't want to respect it, then they can just get the fuck out. And it's nice to have built a community that sees me and respects me in that way, and I just hope that they know that I see them too. So that is it. I'm gonna stop right there before I start crying again, because I have to make another video, and then I want to make these videos before I make content, because I'm gonna ruin my makeup. I gotta make Halloween content. So yeah, that's kind of like how I got into it and why I've kept going. Like, I'm so thankful for it. And yeah, I hope that you all enjoyed it. If you want to see anything else, talk about anything else, like, I'm clearly here to be vulnerable. This is not the first YouTube video that I've cried in, but I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so hard on myself that when I come on here and I talk to you all, I just see how much I've grown. So thanks for sticking with me, and I hope you have a beautiful day.